Hello, my name is Cindy. Thanks for joining me here on Seeing Blind. Today, I am going to cover a topic that hopefully will apply to everyone because we all attend gatherings, parties, events, or we're hosting, organizing, whatever side of the fence you find yourself. There's going to be some food for thought, some gold nuggets and tips to help approach these types of things when you're dealing with individuals with disabilities. We know, based on tons of statistics and research, that at least 1 in 4 people report that they have a disability. So keep that in mind. That's only people who are coming forth and reporting that they have received a disabling diagnosis. So 1 in 4 people, that's a pretty significant number. And many of those are invisible disabilities. So these are all things that you want to keep in mind. And we want to address inclusion, being inclusive to all of our participants, our friends, our families, whatever kind of situation this setting, event, gathering, party, whatever it is, you want to make sure that you have something in place, a plan, some contingencies, things that you can do on site at the moment if someone comes to you with an accommodation request. So we're going to talk about all of that. We're going to start from settings that are large, big venues, stadiums, or theater types of events, all the way to just inviting a small group to your home for a holiday meal or gathering, whatever the case may be. And I'm just going to kind of scrape the surface, if you will. I'm not going to be able to touch on everything here, my friends. So if there is anyone in my fellow disabled community that thinks of something that is a huge pet peeve of them that they think would be a wonderful addition to the subject here, please put it in the comment section so that any and everyone can read and learn. Let's start with awareness, and that's kind of a great segue here because awareness is really the very first step. And one of the things that you want to be aware of is not all disabilities are visible. And you may know your family member or friend so well, but believe it or not, they may not have felt comfortable yet disclosing a diagnosis to you. And they might have certain struggles. They may be just an introvert and really struggle with certain types of venues or events or things like that they just haven't brought up with you, and you've maybe never asked. And so you don't know. You just never want to assume. You never want to not consider having an inclusive experience of things and steps, measures that you can take to make that happen. So first, let's talk about communication 101, and that is think about your audience. Think about who you're inviting, think about the venue, think about all of these things. Again, you don't want to assume that everyone can see, everyone can move easily, everyone can handle chaos, and that, oh, well, we've always done it this way, so that it must be okay. That's not the case. Just because an event's always been organized one way doesn't mean that that's the best way and that's the most inclusive way. So it's always good to really ask yourself these questions and figure out, okay, how can I best serve my participants, my audience, my friends, my family, so that they have a wonderful, inclusive, positive experience, and their needs and requirements and accommodations are not afterthoughts that might make them feel like they're being a burden or that they are bringing the vibe down, really inconveniencing anyone. Those are really terrible feelings that you don't want to provoke due to lack of preparation and forethought. Now, one thing here is a tip right out of the gate here that I'm going to throw out there. I absolutely appreciate it. As someone who is legally blind, I really appreciate it when I receive an invitation. It could be in the mail, through an email, word of mouth, whatever the case may be, that comes with some sort of way of letting the organizer, host, family member, friend, whoever know that if there is something that I need or an accommodation or a preference due to a situation, a condition, chronic illness, you name it, whatever. I always love it when there's some sort of invitation to contact that person and let them know directly, hey, thank you for the invitation in 2 weeks. By the way, is it possible that gifts can be opened up one at a time? And do you mind verbalizing that for me so I know what's going on? Or, hey, do you mind helping me address where appropriate seating for me would be so that I can use as much of my functional vision as possible to perceive what's going on. Having that written on the invitation as an open-ended invitation for your participants to contact you with any requests. That's something that we in the disabled community also need to take advantage of and communicate those needs and advocate for ourselves and accommodations. So if you are one of those people like myself that are needing accommodations, are needing certain seatings and preferences and things like that due to a diagnosis, chronic illness, whatever the situation is, it's also up to us to make those known. And the best way to do that is to look on the invitation, see if there's a contact, a point person in charge that you can reach out to let them know and report that ahead of time so that, again, they're prepared and you have what you need to have the best experience. Moving on, let's go into thinking about the setting. The setting is so vitally important, my friends, right? I mean, you definitely want the setting to not present any hazards. You don't want the setting to provide any barriers or anything like that. So really consider, especially in large theaters and stadiums, one of my huge pet peeves is anytime I'm reserving tickets or seats, I will let them know, hey, I'm visually impaired. Can I please have a seat that is most optimal to the front row or to visually see as much as possible, as close as possible? And it never fails. They'll put me in a wheelchair accessible area that may be in the very back because that's where there's no steps, which is not conducive, right? Or it's way off to the very side, very side right or side left of the stage and not centered, those types of situations. So you want to make sure that the wheelchair accessible seating, that's for wheelchair accessible needs, not someone like me who is legally blind, not someone who may be on the autism spectrum and need specific seating next to a wall or whatever the case may be. Be prepared to handle those requests of seating preferences and accommodations and make sure that you do your due diligence to have those marked off and reserved for individuals within those sub-communities of the disabled community. Not every disability is created equal, right? It is a vast spectrum. My needs are vastly different than a wheelchair user's. So when it comes to settings that have designated disabled seating, please don't assume that that is going to be applicable to anyone who comes forth stating they have a disability. Ask what their preferences are and do your best to accommodate them accordingly on their individual basis. It's just unfortunately not a broad sweeping thing that is just going to solve everyone's needs and meet everyone's preferences and physical sensory impairments by just saying, oh yes, we have disabled seating. That's just not enough. And it's a constant struggle and frustration on my end when I come to large venues that's their approach and they have zero awareness otherwise. I want to also kind of narrow it down. Let's think about in-home. Let's think about classrooms, schools, public buildings, venues that are just a little bit smaller. We're going to kind of narrow it down, okay? So stick with me. For, more of the public buildings and schools and things like that, always keep it clear. It's really annoying for me when even if I have my white cane out, it's, how can I say, exhausting to try to navigate hallways that are constantly cluttered with chairs or tables or crafts or whatever the case may be. If there is a walkway, know that a lot of us want to do what's called shorelining. We want to find that wall and then just follow the wall line. Keep in mind, a very small percentage of the low vision blind community are actual cane users. I was not a white cane user for the first 25, 30 years of my blindness. And just recently, got to the point where I feel comfortable navigating environments. Again, my sub culture of the disabled community, the blind community, most of us have enough functional vision that we can navigate our immediate environments without any mobility aids and can appear as though we have no disability. So just keep that in mind. It's one of those reasons why you still want to make sure you do your due diligence and making sure you're providing a safe environment and setting, that there's not going to be any tripping hazards. Also, address lighting. Make sure that there's no like really dim areas that might be concealing trippable hazards like chair legs, table legs, any small tables kind of randomly in an area. You can use those cool little puck lights that they have now that are battery powered. Keep those on to kind of help highlight those and bring a little bit more lighting to those areas that you feel might be a tripping hazard. If there's any kind of major transitions, for example, it's a tiled area up into a rug that has a pretty high piling, or whatever the case may be, if there's any kind of tripping hazards, cables, extension cords, again, you can highlight them with puck lights. I've even tripped over the orange cones before, you also. I mean, really, it's not like you can create a perfect thing, but any step you take is going to get noticed by the disabled community. And sometimes, just knowing that you've at least tried and done your due diligence, hey, that goes a long way and it's better than nothing, because I've been to many events where there was nothing. When you get down to those smaller settings like a home, someone's personal house, again, just keep in mind you want to keep clear ways. You want to, note and help them. Hey, just so you know, sorry, I have a rug right there, and those edges, they keep just poking up, and I've tripped over it a time or two. So just be aware. I have a rug that's not laying flush down to the floor. Just, communicate those types of things in the setting that maybe you're not able to accommodate your home to make it the most conducive for Meemaw, for example, who maybe doesn't have the best mobility skills. Let them know that, hey, you are welcome to come to me if you have any simple question as far as like, where's the hand soap? Do you have any paper towels? It doesn't matter how big or how small. Let them know they can come to you for any request or need. The biggest mistake I do see at these more intimate gatherings and at the family friend level, especially if there is a new diagnosis or they're aware of additional progression in someone's status, is they begin to hover or take over everything for them, or repeatedly ask, is there anything I do for you? Can I get anything for you? Oh, you have a seat right here. I'm going to do everything for you. That type of, kind of approach, while everyone's intention is well-meaning, it comes across as kind of degrading. Like we're being treated with kid gloves. And the biggest mistake you can make is by treating us differently. It's one of those things where I absolutely love it when I go to my family's house, because they let me do what I need to do. And if I'm not comfortable, if I'm not familiar enough with their kitchen, for example, I will ask, or I will say, hey, how can I help you? Or I will disclose, hey, I've no idea. I do not feel comfortable. Like, I'm just going to get in your way right now. So I'm going to go sit over here. Communication is huge, but the last thing you want to do is treat them differently with kid gloves. You never want to demean them and take away their autonomy and how they function and the dynamics and how they feel around their own family and friends. They're still the same person that you've known and loved for years. So just keep that in mind as well. If you have any questions, again, pop them in the comment section down below. I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. Let's move on to things like food and beverages and things like that. I'm legally blind. If you put out a buffet style or potluck style, I'm going to really struggle with it. Everything looks kind of the same to me, and I'm sure I don't want to put my fingers on everything, trying to touch and feel to figure out what they are, and I'm sure everyone else doesn't want me doing that either. So make sure you always let everyone know, hey, you're welcome to refreshments, or hey, everyone, food table entrees or appetizers are over here. If anyone would like assistance, has questions, feel free, let me know, or designate a person, introduce them to someone that might be a good pair, someone who would not mind playing that role or fulfilling that for them. Just kind of make sure you tackle that prior to, because the last thing you want is someone to sit there and their stomach's growling, they hear everybody else eating, but they do not have the ability to go up and navigate that food area on their own comfortably without feeling like they're disrespecting other people's comfort levels, as far as touching things or making a mistake or spilling or breaking, you name it. My anxiety goes through the roof, and especially in unfamiliar environments or when I'm around other people that I'm not familiar with. That's a very anxiety provoking situation. So nipping that in the bud is a great way to definitely make your guest and your audience member participant feel like you care and that you are aware enough that you're being considerate and respectful of any potential needs they may have. I want to also just kind of throw this little side note in. Please try to avoid the word special. I know that's kind of a controversial thing. Some people have no issue with it at all, but many do, as well as just the word disability. Some people identify with lots of different terms, differently abled, whatever the case may be. Simply stick to accommodations, requests, preferences, needs. These are the types of words that really, they don't have any negative connotation, and it really doesn't matter how one identifies. They would still be applicable in a very light touch kind of way. You can't go wrong, basically, with using those just simple words of, if anyone needs accommodations, if anyone has any needs, not special needs, okay? Because we don't want to be separated. We don't want to reinforce that feeling of being an inconvenience or burden, or that, we are asking for things above and beyond. We just want to have a normal experience and be a part of it as much as everybody else. And it just might mean there are a few tweaks that we need, and approaching it with that type of language and not using words like special or trying to tiptoe around like you're walking on glass, like, oh, I don't want to offend anybody. So if you're differently abled, please, no, treat us the same. Just simply use point blank, hey, if anybody needs accommodations, let me know, or let this person know, or hey, can I introduce you to someone who, if you mentioned you have some needs, that some preferences for your physical or sensory impairments or such, I have someone who would love to meet you and would be a great assistant if you need something during your time here. Just approach it that way. You don't have to approach it with kid gloves or anything like that. So we've talked about setting, food and drink and stuff. I have this later on in my notes, but I want to go ahead and address this now because I feel so strongly about this, okay, my friends? And this is icebreakers. I am not a fan or advocate for icebreakers. I know they have a place. There are some people that truly feel that they are great tools, and that's wonderful, to each their own. But I want to encourage people to at least give people an out. Give them the permission to say, hey, I am not comfortable with this icebreaker, or hey, this is not something I am able to participate in. I want to feel like it's okay if I sit out, and that way I feel like I'm not being rude or disrespectful to the people around me or to the presenter or host or whatever the case may be. giving that permission to give them that out, it is a huge relief for me at times. I can be an introvert in these types of settings. I can also, just because I'm legally blind, I can't always see what the activity is. And sometimes there is no real good accommodation for that activity. For example, if it's building something with popsicle sticks, like, yeah, no, I am not going to be able to do that. But I would love to sit out and watch and know and not feel like I'm being judged negatively for that. So try to keep that in mind. Icebreakers can really be difficult things for the disabled community. It's great to have contingencies. It's great to have digital copies that are accessible for screen readers for all your presentation materials, not just icebreakers. But it's great to provide all those things, and you definitely want to, just to be as inclusive as possible. But simply providing also the option to observe, I feel like goes a long way as well. So research, do your due diligence on how you can make your icebreaker materials, activities, and games. Think outside the box on how you can make different accommodations, have contingency plans, different alternative ways of completing the activity or participating, different roles. Whatever the case may be, really think about your audience and how at least 1 in 4 people could be dealing with a disability that might impact their ability to get the full experience. And the worst thing you want to do is start the tone, the vibe off with that feeling of frustration, that feeling of, again, I am being asked to participate in something that I can't do. And it just automatically kind of sets that vibe up, and you don't want that. This is kind of a good segue to, again, accommodations and things like that, because there's lots of times I've gone to an event and they're showing a little video clip, or there's of course a presentation, PowerPoint, or a movie or show, or if we're getting together as a family, we want to have family movie night, whatever the case may be. You be aware everyone usually knows what closed captions are, right? Where you can toggle on your TV settings, your streaming settings, go to the language. There's various ways to activate them depending on your streaming platform, but everyone's pretty familiar with closed captioning. There is audio description, and it's very, very important that you also announce to everyone, or if someone comes to you privately with their requests and you have this type of format that's going to be presented later on at some point, or that's what the family's got planned, make sure you have that discussion with them. Do you want audio description on? Is there any way that I can provide audio description for this movie? Or I don't have audio description for this video. What can I do to help accommodate so you understand what's being shown visually? These are all things that need to be addressed and need to be part of every organizer, every presenter, every host's thought processes when they're presenting visual materials like this. Closed captioning is not the only accessible alternative. And obviously, if I'm visually impaired, I am not going to be able to read the closed captioning, and vice versa. You want to know how to activate both, or be able to ways that you can provide them individually or speak with them privately on how you can best accommodate them. And they may say, oh, don't worry about it at all. It's just a 5-minute video. Sometimes if that's the case, I'll just say, oh, it's okay. Thank you for asking. I'll just listen. And that's sufficient. But I always feel included on a much higher level when someone actually asks me. And I so appreciate that forethought, that courteousness, and inclusive feeling when I am asked, how can I best perceive the media that's going to be going on? And like I said, that's even at the family level. We have audio description at our home turned on at all times. But when I go to my sister's house or to my in-laws or whatever the case may be, if we were to ever have a actual structured family thing, like, hey, everyone sit down, we're going to watch this together, I would love that. I would so love someone to step up and ask, hey, Cindy, would you like us to turn on the audio description? And you betcha I'm going to say yes if it's available. Okay, moving on. So I've talked many times about ask. I've used that word many times, ask. Asking, some people are comfortable being asked and some people aren't. But that's just one of those things. It's better to always ask than to not ask at all. It is up to us whether we feel comfortable or choose to answer or not answer, or how much we disclose. And the ball's still in our court to do so, even when you ask. But accommodations, contingencies, you cannot plan accordingly if you're not aware of the various needs and preferences that your audience is going to have. So always ask. When in doubt, simply ask. You want to do so, though, in a very sensitive way. Definitely not convey any kind of inconvenience. Oh, I guess I gotta research or jump through more hoops to make this thing more accessible. No, that's just part of it. Be a better host, a better person that is welcoming and warm and understanding and compassionate to everybody by just doing your best to do your due diligence and ask. Again, if someone is not comfortable disclosing, then that's okay. Then it's on them. You've done your part. If someone does answer, though, great. That's how you're going to get information and become more aware. If they disclose something like, yes, I would love audio description, you're like, you may not know how to enable that. Ask them, hey, so we're going to be watching it on this device. Would you happen to know how to enable that, or should I do a quick Google search? Simply continue asking. It shouldn't be that big of an issue, and better to ask than to not ask at all. Now, let's dive into some of those more smaller venues and gatherings, whether it's a workplace kind of thing with colleagues, family, friends, church. It could be your kids' school event, something like that. If you know someone has, for example, a visual impairment, and you know by past experiences or just in your current dynamic and relationship with them, you know that they appreciate verbalization. You definitely want to acknowledge and honor that. But I also really appreciate it when everyone kind of just makes a blanket statement to everyone and says, hey, guys, it may seem like I'm being kind of overly controlling or speaking way too much, but just to be more inclusive, I want to make sure everyone understands and perceives what's going on. So I'm going to be verbalizing a lot of today's activities, text, reading what's going on as much as possible so we're all on the same page. And I always appreciate that, because there may be someone in the room that isn't comfortable disclosing anything and is kind of masking what's going on. Rather than disclosing it to anyone, they would just rather miss out. And that's almost one of those ways that you can just kind of cover all your bases. But I also love it because I feel like there's a lot of able-bodied individuals out there that aren't just thinking. That's not where their head is. They're there for a good time. They're there for networking. They're there for whatever the event purpose is. And their head may not be thinking about, oh, why is she talking so much? Or why is she being so controlling? Or why is she verbalizing the slides or reading all the cards out loud? Sometimes they need a little reminder. Generally, all the audience needs a little rationale for the reason why you're doing it. It also increases their awareness for them to do maybe at an event that they're hosting later on. So it becomes kind of a domino effect. You're raising awareness by explaining, hey, this is why I am doing this. Let's all be respectful. Let's all be inclusive. And this is how I'm going to do this. It's a birthday party. Not everybody can read the birthday cards, so I'm going to be reading them out loud to everyone so everyone can kind of understand and perceive what the birthday cards say, who the gift is from, who it's if it's a gift exchange, who it's to, that all of that pertinent information. Also, keep in mind you want to be aware of the stimulation level. Sometimes small gatherings, especially family ones, fun ones, kids, there's kids going around, they can get a little out of control. And it's all fun, it's all good, but at times that's where you can really exacerbate certain issues for introverts, for those on the autism spectrum, for ADHDers, for people like me who are legally blind and ADHD. I get overstimulated pretty easily when, for example, if everyone's opening gifts up at the same time and I can't understand what's going on. There's so much chaos. It's so loud. I depend on my hearing a lot to perceive my environment. And when it gets so loud and chaotic, I'm overstimulated and I can't isolate enough from what I hear to really perceive what's going on in my environment. And I have to back out. I can only tolerate so much. And the older I get, the worse I get. So really think of your senior populations when it comes to this. Their nerves may not be able to handle those chaotic moments. So if you are hosting a gathering at your house, your church, or whatever the case may be, and you're sensing, wow, it's getting kind of loud in here, or wow, these kids are going buck wild, they're having fun, it is okay to say, hey parents, can you help me just kind of let's pull these reins back just a little bit and remind these kids the volume level needs to be here. Or hey guys, let's slow down the gift opening up process here and go one at a time, just so that we can all enjoy and see and understand who's getting what or what presents from whom, and really enjoy the process, so that it's not too chaotic. Taking that responsibility to just kind of pull those reins back, keep control of the situation, the stimulation overall is not a bad thing. You may feel like you're being controlling, but I promise you there's going to be people like me who are going to appreciate it. A little bit of chaos is fine. Moderation, right, my friends? To wrap up, I just want to let you know what links and things you can find down below in the comment section. I do have an Amazon storefront. You can peruse that for all kinds of gift ideas and just general blind, low vision life gadgets and gizmos, products for the home, at work, out and about, family life, kinds of things. There's lots of stuff there that you can get some inspiration from. I'm also going to put my link tree down there so that hopefully you can follow my content, more things that I post across all my platforms. This video is kind of piggybacking off of one that I did many years ago that is still valid today. And it is, I can't remember the exact title, so check it out in the comment section, but it's something like how to treat individuals with visual impairments, or how to, good etiquette for individuals with visual impairments, something to that line. But you'll probably see some videos popping up on my left and right. I encourage you to check them out, and I hope this video helps you. Definitely share it with anyone that you feel could benefit. Again, if you've got anything to add to the comment section, please do. I am not going to be able to think of it all, nor am I going to be able to fit it all in one video. So definitely help me out by commenting below. I'll catch you in the next video. Blessings to you and yours.